Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now these two bits of scrap wood are going to form the basis of quite an interesting project, I hope. What we're going to be making is something for my wife. I've always ensured that she's always had fresh flowers, but in all the years we've been together, I have never actually made her a vase. So today we're going to remedy that and make something hopefully quite nice. Now, like I said, this is just going to be the form for what we're going to build around it. Now, the main ingredients for this are going to be a nice plastic tube to set the resin in, a glass liner. This will ensure that my wife or whoever can keep it clean, change the water, and no water is going to ingress into the piece itself. And of course, the main ingredient, these things. Now these are cones from a sequoia, so redwood cones. They're quite incredible looking things. If you get a close look at these, and I'll put a photograph on the screen now, they really are quite unusual. They're incredibly hard. I'm using all my force there to try and distort it, and it's not really moving, so turning them could be fun. Now the idea is that this form here, we're going to turn it round, and then we're going to stick these cones to the sides and to the base, put it in our mould, and then our resin. This piece here, we're going to have our central tower stuck onto it, and this piece is going to be turned to fit inside this mould. I'm doing that for two particular reasons. First of all, this mould isn't quite round perfectly. It's obviously been squished at some point, so turning that perfectly round at the correct diameter to fit inside will hopefully keep this perfectly round. Secondly, it's going to give it a nice piece to silicone or to glue into the mould, so hopefully we're not going to lose any resin. So first things first, we're going to turn that to the right diameter and turn this round. Okay, slight flat spots, but that's absolutely fine. We can move on to the next piece. Okay, there's our form all nicely made. I've cut it to length. While cutting it, I did manage to make a bit of a mess there, but that's fine. So we're going to take glue now and start sticking on all of our cones. Now, that's quite a large one, so I'm going to try and make sure that on the sides I don't go too big, otherwise we're going to have trouble fitting this into the mould. Now we have to remember that this is the top and this will be the base, so if we can get all the pine cones facing the same way, maybe up towards the top, I think that would be nice. Okay, there's not enough surface area on these cones to be able to glue efficiently. So I'll scrap that idea right there. That's to a solid. I'll scrap that idea and I'll go to a hot glue. Okay. Oh, why me? Okay, the extra hot glue I got for my gun isn't any good for this purpose. So if you're thinking about buying it, just do a bit better research than I did. I'm just going back to a normal glue stick, and hopefully this will be a little bit more efficient. He says. Is it just me, or does everyone have this trouble with glue guns? If you have a type of glue gun that works brilliantly without problem, please let me know. Okay, I'm just going to let these just quickly harden for a second, then I'll have to take it off and stand it upright because I don't fancy my chances of gluing onto a horizontal surface, sorry, vertical surface. Right, I'm so glad that's over. I'm so glad. Honestly, if you have any good recommendations for decent glue guns and a makeup glue stick, then please leave them in the comments below, because I am in need. I am desperately in need. Right, I'm going to let this set for a little while, make sure everything's stable, and then we'll come back, glue the lid on, and then mix up some resin. Okay, we're just about ready to start. I have fixed the mould to the base and sealed it with a silicone. It's a pretty good seal. It was sealed inside and out, so I have every faith that this is not going to leak. But just in case, I will sit it in a little bath as well and put it into the pressure pot. Right, now with regards to the resin, I'm going to mix up 2 lots of 750 millilitres. I have no idea how much this is going to take to fill it. So 750 ml, 2 lots of 750 ml, so 1.5 litres of resin. That's my kind of best guess. As ever, if I have too much, then I always decant it into other moulds as well to be used in other projects. Right, so in each one, I'm going to add 500 millilitres of part A, and then another 250 millilitres of part B. We're using the Let's Resin deep pour resin as usual. These are brand new pots, so I've got to take the bungs out. Okay, I'll give these a mix first before I start to add the colour. Okay, excellent. Just let that drip there for a second. Now with regards to colour, as I mentioned before, this is specifically for my wife, so I'm going to tailor-make the colours specifically for her. So in this one, I'm using a cyan blue because currently it is the same colour as her hair. Nice healthy amount in there because we're using quite a lot of resin. And in this one, we're using a seashell, which is a nice kind of pearlescent white colour. And into both of them, I'm going to add some sparkles, because believe it or not, my wife loves sparkles even more than I do. Right, mix these up well. Okay, excellent. Right, I'm going to let these sit for a good 30 or 40 minutes to try and evacuate as much of the air bubbles out as possible, and then we'll come back and pour. Okay, I think we're ready. The resin's had enough time to vacate some of its bubbles. Won't all be out, but it's kind of redundant because an awful lot more are going to be introduced as we pour. So we'll take this slowly, pour gradually with each one, and see how we get on. I got that so wrong, didn't I? Okay, I'll quickly make up a bit more and I'll bring you back in a second. Okay, all mixed up. Let's go for part two. That's better. Probably too good. Right, now what I had intended to do was to put a few of these cones on the top to and then secure them over with a bit of tape. But that's going to overflow it, isn't it? I'll just scoop out a bit of this to allow me a bit of room. I'm just adding these just to help keep everything in place below it, just in case the hot melt glue gives up, which it has done in the past. Last one. Right, I'm going to let this sit here for a little while, then I'll come back and then move it into the vacuum chamber. Okay, we're safely into the pressure pot. It's been sat like this for a good hour and a half and doesn't seem to be any leaks or anything bad happening, which is nice. So we'll seal it up, pressurize it, and see it again in a few days' time. By the way, we've got a few more stickers on the resin pot. We've got Wood by Wayne, Grey Woodcraft, and Good Woods. If you have a sticker that you would like to add to the pressure pot, then just get in touch and we'll get it sorted. Right, all happily out of the pressure pot. It's looking good. Now I'm going to give it a go at getting it out of this mould so I can reuse it. If not, I'm going to probably end up turning it with it on. So let's give it a go. Okay, with all my experience, I pretty much have the idea that I could struggle on with this for a very long time and not get anywhere. So I'll put it on the lathe and we'll either cut it off or turn it off, because even though I've broken the edges there, it's not moving at all. Right, luckily we've got a nice worm screw and we can easily get this back on. Okay, I don't think we should rely on the worm screw. Ah, it's the actual, it hasn't come out the base, it's slipped in the jaws. Okay, well, that seems to have come out beautifully. Got a nice bit of separation between the whiter area and the blue, so I'm pretty pleased with that. Now, because this isn't flat, I would really desperately want to start off with tailstock support when I'm getting this round and creating a tendon or a recess, whatever. So I'm just going to quickly take this off, put it on the bandsaw, flatten that off, and then we'll get it back on and start turning. Okay, we're on the lathe, nice and safe. Initially we're going to be turning at about 680 RPM. I've got my bowl gouge out, and initially I just want to get this square and straight, and then we can start working on where the foot's going to be and how we're going to hold it when we turn it around. The majority of the shaping and everything else like that is going to be done when we've flipped it. We're starting to expose the cones, which is nice. We've got them at the bottom as well, which is beautiful, but these are the ones which are important. A lot of these ones at the bottom, at the very bottom, are going to be turned away, so these are the ones we need to worry about. I'm just going to switch over to a carbide and start turning it down a little bit further. The majority of this is going to be done with carbide, I would imagine, so I may as well start getting used to it now. This is the joys of turning resin. Okay, so you can instantly see the difference in finish between a carbide tipped tool and the bowl gouge. It's giving us a lot cleaner finish, but it is a lot slower. It takes a lot more time. So you have to kind of choose which tool you want for which occasion. Now, we are going to be turning this down a little bit here because we don't want all this extra base. The bottom of the vase is going to be around there. Now we know the depth inside, sorry, the width inside, because we're using the glass shell, and that's going to be 95 millimeters. So we know we've got a fair amount of area on the outside. We can turn it back without running into any problems. So I'm going to continue on. I'm not going to worry about too much about creating a shape, although something may appear, but I am going to start trying to expose some more of these sequoia cones. That's starting to look nice. I think what I'll need to do now is just to start to part this off a little bit so we can get to the proper base of this. Remember, we added a few extra cones just to help stop everything else from moving. Now, the sleeve we've got is that deep, I want the base to be around there, so I think that is an ideal parting off point. Now thinking about it, this can make actually a nice little lid for a pot or something like that, so definitely keep hold of that. Okay, I'm just going to spend a little bit of time sorting out the base and this corner here, just so I can expose as many of these cones as possible, so it looks as nice as we can get it. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we've got a basic foot there and a curve on the side I've put on there just to expose these cones, and that'll lead into a nice curve into the side of the vase. So now it's a case of flattening this off and putting a recess in. I've double checked that my worm screw is still holding tight before I do that, so I'll just quickly flatten this off, check that, and then we'll put the recess in. Okay, that wasn't ideal. So let's see what happened. Right, that's what happened. Just a little bit of a catch from that carbide, and it's completely ripped out the worm screw. But that's okay. I'm going to quickly figure out the next step. It's probably be to glue another board on that, I think. And then we'll carry on. Right, I'll be back in a second. Okay, the way I think I've fixed it was to drill a 2 1/4 inch hole into a piece of MDF and then CA glue that onto the base. Drill down with again the 2 1/4 inch bit, which should hopefully give us a nice deep enough recess to be able to put onto these jaws. Now it seems like a good idea. We'll find out in a second. We haven't done any finishing work or anything like that on this piece yet, so if it does fly off again, then there's not an awful lot lost. Just some more sorting out to try and do. Now, I've tried to get it as central as possible, but even with the best eye in the world, you would never get it spot on. So maybe a bit of truing up to do on the base before I finish off that tenon. Okay, that's trued up a fair amount. Now, rather than running the same risk and putting extra pressure on this by trying to turn that recess again, I'm going to turn a shallow recess with a Forstner bit and then clean it up after that. It's not ideal, but I think it's the best way to keep us as safe as we possibly can be. Okay, that's the recess in. I'm just going to spend a couple of moments just polishing and sanding this, or the other way around obviously. Then we're going to turn it around and I'll bring you back and we'll continue. Okay, I've got it turned around. I've had to use a block on this end because the live centre wouldn't sit into the hole again properly without distorting all of this. So I've had to put a block there, and that's just going to hold it in place with friction just while I turn this end away. I'm going to part it off in the way I did the bottom, and once we've got that, then we can, I think we go straight to hollowing out. The sleeve we're putting in is 95 millimeters, and I want to try and save myself as much time as possible, so I bought myself a special tool to help with this very job. Right, the tool is this. It's a 3 3/4 inch or 95 millimeter Forstner bit, and hopefully, as long as it works, I can hollow this out all in one go. Sounds like a dream come true, doesn't it? But I'm sure there's going to be a couple of hiccups along the way. Now I'm going to take this incredibly slowly, very, very carefully. I want to make sure that the resin doesn't get too hot and start to melt. Yeah, we're just going to proceed with absolute care. I'm really not sure if this is a good idea or not. I guess we'll find out. Right, I'm going to turn the speed down low so it doesn't get too hot. We'll make a start. I wonder if I'm asking too much of it. I think I might be. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off with a smaller bit, clear out some area, and then eventually go in with a larger one, and it won't have quite as much work to do. Sounds like a better idea, doesn't it? I wonder if Tesco's is still open. Right, that's the desired depth of the first size. I'm going to quickly nip down the supermarket and see if I can find another sleeve. I really hope they've got some in. Right, I'll be back soon. Okay, luckily before I got back into the car to go and buy a new glass sleeve for this vase, my wife kindly reminded me that it's Sunday. It's 6 o'clock and all the supermarkets are closed, so that will have to be done tomorrow. So I'm going to proceed using the measurements that I've already got off it. So we need to carry on and now widen this hole with a larger Forstner bit down to a depth of 18 centimetres. Okay, that wasn't ideal. Drat. Best laid plans and all that. Right, I have a horrible feeling this is going to have to be hollowed out by hand.
What I'm thinking of doing, because I've got a slight gradual taper in, unfortunately. It's more down to my ability and the tools I'm using. So I'm just going to give this forcing a bit another go to see if I can just clean up the edges. It doesn't have to cut up much or turn away much, just the very edges. So hopefully the carbide tips on this thing can handle that all right. Just turn this headstock back around. Right, let's give this a go. Right, that's 18 centimeters. Sorry, right, that's 18 centimeters, which is the same depth as the sleeve I smashed down there. So I'm going to call it a night because I am shattered. In the morning I shall nip down to Tesco, hopefully buy another one. If they haven't got any in, I don't know what I'm going to do. So anyway, right, let's call it a night. I think I need a shower. Right, good morning everyone. I've been down to Tesco and I'm very pleased to say that they had one. And do you want to see something cool? Look, it even fits. Perfect. Nice and snug. Right, I did buy two, just in case I managed to drop this one as well. Right, now we can start having a little bit of fun and trying to work out a shape for this. It's not going to be too adventurous because we've only got about 3/4 of an inch on the thickness of the walls and a little bit thicker in the center. So I'm gonna have a little play around with the carbide and see what I can come up with. Okay, to help keep everything nice and secure, I'll just put the lid in. This is the lid from the glass sleeve. It's just gonna help keep everything nice and firm as we're shaping this. Okay, now I've produced a shape here which is very different to what I would normally do, but when you start turning, you will start working on a little bit. Initially I'd put this curve in here and I was going to go with a full kind of curve into the center, and then I don't know, just something just made me try and do it again, and then reversed it on the other side. And I don't mind it, I quite like it. So I think we're going to stay with that. Right, I'm going to quickly sort out this top edge, clean it up, and then I think we can start sanding. It reminds me, I must clean up that glass from down there.
with that. I'm going to set up for sanding. I'll let you watch a bit of it, and I shall bring you back when we're done. Okay, sanding went wonderfully. So I'm just going to put a bit of isopropyl alcohol on just to clean off all the dust from the grooves and give us a kind of first look at how this is going to look. Wow, that's quite pleasing. This has given me quite a few problems. I was so happy that we're near the end. Oh. Of course. Right, let's let this evaporate. Okay, that's nicely evaporated, so now I'm going to go on with an abrasive paste and give this a really good rub down. Before I start buffing it in though, I am going to put on a face shield because I don't want this stuff to hit me in the face or in the eyes as I'm rubbing it in. Abrasive paste, if you've not used it before, it takes a sanded finish and kind of multiplies it. This has been sanded to about 400 grit, and by the time I've finished with this abrasive paste, it will have a finish of about 1000. Face shield on. And once again, we'll go over with isopropyl alcohol just to remove any remnants of the grit. And again, we'll let that dry. Okay, for a final finish, I'm going to use shine juice. This is just a mix of shellac with linseed oil, and it should hopefully give us a nice glossy finish. We're going to apply it as the piece is spinning, and then increase it until it dries, and that should hopefully leave a nice gloss finish. It may take 2 or 3 coats to get a perfect finish at the end, but we'll keep going until it's nice. I am going to use a face shield again because putting wet objects onto spinning things, you are going to get spatter. Okay, right, I'm going to apply a couple more coats and I shall bring you back and we'll take a look at what we've done. Well, there we go. A nice little vase made from redwood cones and resin. And of course, with our sleeving, it becomes the perfect vase for fresh flowers and anything else. I've really enjoyed this one, even though it has been a complete pain. I've been wanting to make something with pine cones or any kind of cones for a long time. And I happened across these cones on eBay, and I bought about 50 of them, which I just about had enough. But I'm so glad I chose this sequoia one because the actual grain in the pods, or the cones, or whatever they're called, is absolutely gorgeous. It's like little lips all over the place. It really is quite fascinating. The resin worked beautifully. With the aid of the pressure pot, there's virtually no air bubbles whatsoever. There's nothing where I had to fill with CA glue or UV resin at all, so I was really pleased with the way that came out, and we've got a nice bit of colour differentiation between the blue and the white that we used. Now the sparkles are put in, I have no idea where they are. I can see the odd one, but I was expecting to see a few more. This project has kind of taken me back in time. The amount of problems I faced and things that went wrong. If you watch some of my older videos, it really was pretty much reliving past memories. Anyway, so this is for my wife. It's going to be a flower vase, and of course I can't give it to her without some flowers. So I bought some African lilies and some gypsophilia, and I'll be putting those in a second. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe and all the usual things. And if you could share it as well, then that would be absolutely amazing. Don't forget, if you do leave a comment, you are going to be entered into the next giveaway whenever that happens. But apart from that, thank you very much indeed for watching. I'll see you next time. Thank you.